Mic check. Make sure my mic good. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. We up in here because we got some business to handle tonight. You see the title, see the thumbnail. I know y'all wondering what's going on over here, but trust me, it ain't me. It ain't me. It's not me. It's not me. We are examining a conversation or thoughts from a brother who I vehemently disagree with. But we're going to examine his thoughts. So come on in. Make sure you hit that like button when you come in. Please hit that like button. Comment, subscribe, share to this channel. This is On the Shoulders of Giants. I am Joseph Ward. This is Tuesday Night Live. And it's a school night, but we ain't got no school, so we could be up late tonight. We could do our thing tonight. We can get it in. We could take our time and get it in tonight. So welcome. I welcome everybody. Thank you for being here on this Tuesday night, because you could be anywhere, but you in here chilling with me. So like I said, we got some business to handle too, because I was scrolling through YouTube the other day, and like I always do, and I come across this video and the title jumps out to me. And I'm like, what the hell? And so the title, what's the title? The title is Nick Fuentes, White Fred Hampton, Hear Me Out. And that's a video by the brother irvineP. And that's the name of his YouTube channel, irvineP. And from my understanding, he's an associate professor, or he was an associate professor at the University of Georgia in Athens. And he is on the professor's watch list. I don't know what that means, but he's a black man who's a professor, and he's not liked by the academic community because of his radical, or his views that are seen as radical against white supremacists and the Jews. And so that's why I'm confused, because I watched the video and I know what I know about Fred Hampton, and I know what I know about Nick Fuentes. And so I'm like, I'm not understanding how he's mixing these two. I'm not understanding how he has Fred Hampton here, have Nick Fuentes here, and see similarities, or even, as you see, we go through the video, even make the claim that that Nick Fuentes could be beneficial to Black Americans. I'm kind of confused. I'm very confused, but we're going to get into it. We're going to examine it, because I'm not getting it. I'm not understanding it. So things that we are going to cover today. Like I said, we're going to watch as much of the video as possible of irvineP, Nick Fuentes, White Fred Hampton, Hear Me Out. We're going to watch as much of that. He also has a video from 4 years ago where he did a tribute to Fred Hampton. And so we're going to see if he has contrasting thoughts, and if his thoughts have changed from 4 years ago to now. I also have a video of Fred Hampton give ideas, thoughts of, Fred Hampton speech videos. I have one of those, and I have a video of Nick Fuentes telling us about himself, his ideologies, things he believes in, all those things there. So we can get kind of as much of a well-rounded understanding of who Fred Hampton is and who Nick Fuentes is, and in my opinion, why these two shouldn't be mentioned in the same sentence, why their ideologies don't match at all. And I'm just not understanding why the brother came up with this. So that's the stuff we're jumping into today. So y'all make sure y'all jump into the comments, hit that like button, comment, subscribe, share. This is On the Shoulders of Giants Tuesday night. I am Joseph Ward. Thank y'all for being here. I appreciate everything. A little housekeeping. I want to give a shout out to all my channel members: Cortez Renfro, Chisel Chipper, A Show About Me, Counter Racism Now Music, LaRonda Weatherspoon, KT, Talent, Terrell, KT, Ron Riley, DSB, Patrick Irvin, Professor Carl Tone Jones, and Say Bills. Shout out to all my channel members. Shout out to everybody who continuously support this channel to help this channel grow. Shout out to everybody who tune in on a regular basis to this channel to make sure you get this information and to help me grow as well. We're growing together, we're growing community, and we're doing what we need to do to make sure that we get this information out. So let's go ahead and get this thing kicked off a bit and let Arami Osei Frimpong kind of help lay the foundation for why he believes that, for one, Nick Fuentes is a white Fred Hampton, and two, further on the video, you're going to see he's talking about Black America partnering with Nick Fuentes and the Groypers for our survival. So let's check that out. So please, like I said, hit that like button, comment, subscribe, share. Thank you for being here. This is On the Shoulders of Giants. So let's get this thing going.
America, my name is irvineP Frimpong, and I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to say some things that you might not agree with and you might not like, but you need to hear. We do not have problems. The Black people in specifically, but the left in general. We have problems that we cannot deal with on our own. We get screwed up by AIPAC. Look, Black people, anytime we get a little bit feeling ourselves and get too close to the truth, you know, Israel will fly out all of your favorite HBCU leaders and all of the whole CBC. They'll fly them out and treat them like kings. And then when they come back, they are Zionists, right? We cannot control the Black mind. Anytime the Black mind gets a little bit too autonomous, it'll be bought out by other people and flown out by other people. And that's a problem. And we cannot fight that. We don't have the numbers. We don't have the money. Organizations take money, disposable cash, and we do not have disposable cash. We're too busy paying light bills and trying to buy instead of rent, right? So we do not have the money. We don't have the numbers. And that vulnerability gets used against us. And we need to admit that we don't have a solution when AIPAC screws up Black politics.
So he said we don't have the money, we don't have the organization, we're a vulnerable group of people. And I do agree that our vulnerability gets exploited by the Democrats because most of Black America are tied to the Democratic Party. So I do agree that our vulnerability does get exploited by the Democrats. But why wouldn't our vulnerability be exploited by the right? Why wouldn't our vulnerability be exploited by the Groypers or Nick Fuentes and his people? What would stop them from taking advantage of us as Black people, as the vulnerable people, as you say, right? As he's saying, right? And I'm not disagreeing that we are vulnerable, but what sense would it make for vulnerable people to align themselves with a group of people who have a history of oppressing you, a history of dehumanizing you? Of course, it sounds crazy to say that we should, to me, it sounds crazy to say that we should align ourselves with any group of people who have a history of being racist against us, or any group of people who have a history of oppressing us, or any group of people who had any type of power and control over us and exercise that power and control to make sure that they can get their gains and to use us as tools. What would stop them from using us as tools? These are some of the questions that I have, but let's let him continue to talk. And y'all tell me what y'all think.
We don't have a solution. We don't have a solution. We don't have a solution. All right, we don't have a solution when Miss Andre screws up labor politics. Now, Miss Andre is just like a knee-jerk hatred of men and all the things men do. And you can say it's not that big of a problem. And it's not maybe nationwide, but in left and Black spaces, it is. Like this notion that Black men ain't what they aren't, ain't stuff, is like, it works. It works. And we can't fight against it. We can't fight against it because, one, it's rude. It ignores the nationwide, arguably nationwide, biased against women. But in left spaces and in Black spaces and in marginal spaces, that turns its head really quickly against in a bias against men, which means we can't make any moves within the Democratic Party, because if we do make moves within the Democratic Party, All they have to do is send a woman against us. And and then that's it. That move is already that's done. So the inbuilt misandry actually gets used as a problem for Black politics.
Yeah, but the assumption is going to the other side will be beneficial. That's the assumption. Okay, it's misandry on the other side, and it's still turning their backs on Black folks, not giving a damn about Black folks, not doing anything for Black folks, not messing with Black folks. Matter of fact, if they could take us out, they would. Matter of fact, if they would rather build a utopia for themselves absent of us. And these are the people we want to align ourselves with, because we're mad at the left. I keep saying, if you're mad at what the left have going on, if you're mad at what the Democrats got going on, cool. But the right is not the answer for Black people. I mean, yes, we are a vulnerable people. Yes, we are a weakened people. Yes, we are people in dire need. We are an insane group of people. We are people with so many problems. But we're going to compound our problems if we align ourselves with people who don't and have never had our best interest in Nick Fuentes and the Gorpers, and especially somebody like Nick Fuentes, who has no experience in proving or showing that he could lead anybody anywhere. Why would we align ourselves with that? That's detrimental to our future. We might as well hang it up right now, in my opinion.
Right. And the misandry comes in the form of, we don't care about, it's not just that we don't care about men, Black men, or poor white men. We don't care about anything they do. And you kind of saw a glimmer of this of Gamergate. See, I don't play video games. I'm too old. Like I said, I aged out of the Nintendo, the first Nintendo, up, down, left, right, BA select start. That was my controller. And I think by the time the controllers got more fancy, I was already playing soccer in junior high or whatever. So in high school. So I never learned the new controller. So I didn't play video games, but other people do, and other guys do, and then they were getting punished for just not being able to play video games the right way. And that's a problem. That's a problem. So everything that men do, the things that men do get stigmatized in a way that really is kind of degrading and alienating, which, even if I don't do it as a man, I want other guys to do what they do. You can play video games the way they want to play video games.
VV goated. I'm with you. VV goated. I am with you. Right? The comment is, a race of people supposed to be locked in before interacting with a political party. Jewish people's identity comes first before any political party. That's why they so strong. I agree with you. Why would we align ourselves with anybody in any way, right, on any front, without making sure we got our stuff together, just out of desperation? Well, you're going to make the situation worse, in my opinion. You're going to make the situation worse, right? But do more. We have to build our own. We have to build our own, right? Come on now. We gotta think different. We gotta think smarter. We can't think out of desperation. We can't think like oppressed people. Even though I know we know nothing else. We have to think outside the box for ourselves and our future and our survival.
But no, so misandry just kind of runs deep in this liberal and left spaces, but it gets occluded because it's not a global problem. But if you actually want to be a good guy, you got to deal with people who don't like guys. And that's a problem. So that pushes a lot of people to just deal with bad guys, or it just pushes them out of politics. Although I did a video about this before, we're going to keep going. We don't have we don't have an answer to AIPAC. We don't have an answer to misandry on the liberal and on the left. And we don't have an answer to market liberals. Once again, if Mamdani, the DSA member who just won in New York, if he had run against a woman, if they knew that he would be so good on the debate stage, they wouldn't have run like a geriatric sex pest in Cuomo. They would have run a woman and then he would have gotten beaten. He didn't win necessarily because of inspiring vision. He ran because the Democrats didn't get their act together to get a woman in his in that race.
I don't, I'm not disagreeing with his critique of the Democratic Party. I'm definitely not agreeing with that. You know what I'm saying? Definitely not disagreeing with his critique of the Democratic Party, but I just vehemently disagree with his solution to it, though.
Because then they just could have kicked up a misogyny angle, and then he would have been toast. He wouldn't have won the first ballot, and then the simps and professional class women, the pantsuit crowd, they would have gone for the woman if she were marginally competent. And there are a lot of marginally competent market liberal women, and so we don't have a solution for this. And our vulnerabilities get used against us.
Continue to get used.
So we need to bring in help. We need to bring in help.
Listen.
We need someone to deal with our APEC problem. We need someone to deal with our misandry problem. And we need someone to deal with our market liberal problem. Unfortunately, when you're in a position slightly prone, as the left has been, and we just need to be honest that we just keep losing and losing and losing and losing. And even when we win, it's not great, right? Like Chicago under Brandon Johnson. We need to broaden the entire conversation, and we need some heavy hitters from the other side. And when you're in a vulnerable position, you don't always get to pick your help, right? And so that's why I get to Nick Fuentes as a white Fred Hampton. Now, I have a lot of respect for Fred Hampton. I did shows on Fred Hampton before. I mean, I think he understood the education problem. He understood. I think he actually would understand Nick Fuentes' appeal, because Nick Fuentes is actually trying to grow, not just grow his audience in terms of a grifter and try to make money. He needs to raise their consciousness, and he's actually used those words.
Yeah, but Fred Hampton was fighting for the liberation of his people, and ultimately the liberation of marginalized, poor, downtrodden people, but primarily the liberation of his people, versus Nick Fuentes and white folk infighting for power amongst the Republican Party. Those are two different things. So how does Fred Hampton get drugged into Nick Fuentes, them being synonymous? Because Fuentes is a part of a group of white folk who are fighting for power within the groups of white folk within the Republican Party. And out of their infighting, because you like Nick Fuentes' infighting, and a lot of his argument is emotional, and because you like Nick Fuentes' infighting, you like the way what he's doing, we should hitch ourselves to that, and he would be our savior, and the Groypers would be our savior, because you like the way they infight. Because once again, he has a thing against the left, and he has a thing against the Jews. Arami does. Those are his things, but I'm just not wrapping my mind around this Nick Fuentes being the white Fred Hampton. To me, when I first heard it, I was like, that's very disrespectful. That's very disrespectful to the legacy and the fight of Fred Hampton. And I wondered, what does he know about Fred Hampton? As you heard him say, he did a video about Fred Hampton 4 years ago. So I am going to show that, but I would want to let him talk for a little more. We're going to hear some of the ideologies of Fred Hampton, and then hear some of the ideologies of Nick Fuentes, and then go back to that video 4 years ago when he's talking about Fred Hampton, and come back to this one. But let's let him talk a little more, though.
And trying to raise their consciousness and not just make money off them like a lot of these other grifters are. And so yes, he uses the N word with a hard R. But you know what? This is America. A lot of people think it. Right? So he just says it.
Yeah, but so we know how Nick Fuentes feels about black people, and we're supposed to ignore that and hitch ourselves to that, but also believe that they will have our best interests, and believe that they can see us as an asset to them. All right. Okay, bro. Okay.
Explicitly. And that's not necessarily any worse than it going unregulated in people's minds. So when Fuentes says stuff like this, I'm going to play a clip. I say well, we might need to actually have to work with this guy. And that might not be the good thing, because the worst thing, because what we're doing right now is not working. We don't know what to do with our feminists. We don't know what to do with AIPAC, and we don't know what to do with the market liberals, who will, all of them will use the vulnerability of the left, either the ethical vulnerability as we want to be nice to women, or the material vulnerability about it's a lot of poor black people. So they can just pay a rich black person to say the opposite.
Well, why wouldn't the right do that?
But this guy, he may have the answer, right? So let's listen to his offer.
This is why I said the other night, why don't we have populist Republicans and populist Democrats that just solve problems? Just solve problems for Americans. And by the way, I am willing to compromise with the left, 100%. I'll work with anybody. I saw the track AIPAC people. It's some progressive woman and some progressive gay guy. I'd work with them on shutting down AIPAC in a second, in a heartbeat. Same goes for Anna Kaspari and Cenk Uygur. They were in favor of democratic populism. They want to deliver healthcare. They want to deliver education. I would work with them in a second. A Zohran Mamdani, all day. That's why I said we need to rethink and realign our politics based on what actually matters and what matters to us. We have to drop the wokeness, arguably on both sides. We have to drop the wokeness on the left, which is anti-white and obsessed with immigration, basically throwing the borders open. They have to get rid of the tone policing and language policing. And on the right, we can work together with the left. Maybe we have to let go of some of the cruelty and abuse directed at some of the marginalized communities on their side. It's true. There are marginal people. What else would you call a racial minority other than a marginal person? I'm okay with living in a society where we, as long as we close the borders, we can take care of everybody in the country. We can figure out how we can all get along together, as long as there is a consensus agreement that we can put America first. But what I see from the Trump administration and from the Democrats is neither of them are willing or able to actually do anything for people, for the actual people. And this is the evidence. Chuck Schumer opens the government with no Obamacare subsidies.
So what history does Nick Fuentes have, not only for doing for the people, but doing for our people? If we're going off of what Arami is saying, is we should hitch ourselves to Nick Fuentes. Well, and he's talking about the Democrats not doing nothing for the people, talking about Trump and them not doing nothing for the people. Well, what have you done, Nick Fuentes, specifically? And Arami, what has Nick Fuentes done specifically for black people for us to just be like, all right, well, this is the guy we should rock with? Because as far as I know, he don't have no history of that. And like I said, I agree. Like AIPAC, like we should be side-eyeing all these groups of white folk. History tells us we should. What history do we have of fair dealings for us, of good tangible outcomes for us, things that actually made life better for black people as a whole, not just a group of black people? Because are we going to go from one party where a group of black people get the crumbs off the table to go to another party where a small group of black people still get the crumbs off the table? Like, are we going to go from one colonizer to the next? Because that's what it sounds like he's advocating for. So, because I'm just saying, this dude ain't qualified. I mean, he talked good, but what real world experience and qualifications does he really have to lead anybody, let alone us? And how the hell can he help us? What experience does he have, or what results have he gotten from helping his people other than just talking?
After they funded the Trump government earlier in the year without a fight at all, but now he wants to put forward a bill on anti-Semitism. Really? So which constituents are you working for exactly? You can't.
So we can deal with this. Look, I don't get to pick the whites we deal with because we're in a vulnerable position.
No, we do get to pick the whites we deal with. We do get to pick the whites we deal with. And I get it. The Democrats on some bull. But I'm not jumping ship just to jump ship. We got to find a better way to be able to interact with other folk to get what we need, but we need to get our stuff together first. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Now, I don't disagree. I don't disagree, my brother. But we got to get our stuff together first. You can't just go hopping from boat to boat to boat to boat as a vulnerable people. You will be exploited.
We need to just grow up and understand that this is what we deal with. It's kind of like Mamdani going to the White House. He didn't vote for Trump, but if he wants to do his job, if he wants to do his job, he knows that he needs, one, to keep ICE agents out of New York. Two, he needs subsidies at the national level to keep, the biggest city in the nation running. And if he wants to do his job, he needs to he should have the favor of the president. And you know what that visit did with Mamdani to the White House? That allowed 1,000 conservative New Yorkers room to do business with him. That one photo op and just being willing to go there, call the meeting, and have them say decent things about each other, and Trump say that this guy's okay, that allowed Mamdani room to work in New York. And that's a mature move. That's a mature move. We need to understand that we need help. We need to understand we can't do it alone. And if this guy can take out the Zionists, if this guy can deal with our misandry problem, if this guy can deal with the market liberals, hey, that's not the worst thing in the world. And then we just have
but I get the emotional ties that he has to these groups as far as not liking these groups. And I get it. I'm a black man. That's for my people. I don't rock with none of these people. But as that, I don't rock with none of these folks. I don't trust none of them. None of them. Now, so let's stop it right here. Let's pause it right here. And let's get into some of these ideologies, because we just heard a little bit of what Nick Fuentes was saying, right? So let's get into some of these ideologies, right? Let's listen to what Fred Hampton, what his ideology is for the people. And this is about a 5-minute clip, so we're going to check it out. So let me share my screen. So we can just make sure I can make sure my analysis is correct, because I'm like, there's no way Nick Fuentes and Fred Hampton should be mentioned in the same sentence. And there's no way that we should be looking at Nick Fuentes as the white Fred Hampton. That just blows my mind. And as of right now, this is like my third or fourth time watching this video, and he hasn't said anything that makes sense to me as to justify the disrespect of Fred Hampton, tying him to such a racist man like Nick Fuentes, somebody who's been openly crapping on black people. So, but let's listen to Fred Hampton though.
With the last words on my lips, that I am a revolutionary. And you're gonna have to keep on saying that. You're gonna have to say that I am a proletarian. I am the people. I'm not the pig. What you done? We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am a revolutionary. And you're gonna have to keep on saying that. You're gonna have to say that I am a proletarian. I am the people. I'm not the pig. You got to make a distinction. And the people are going to have to attack the pigs. The people are going to have to stand up against the pigs. That's what the pastors are doing. That's what the pastors are doing all over the world.
We have brought to trial here Fred Hampton. You are here to judge between two conflicting testimonies. Somebody is lying. Now, reason stands, reason is very clear here, that Private Jones, who had come from Sanford, North Carolina, would have no great desire to see Fred Hampton up in this trial. But Fred Hampton, a key figure in this community, has great reason for not wanting to be put in jail.
But the state's attorney and the state's attorney's office has reasons to see Fred Hampton in jail. we've got a new state's attorney. And he said already what he thought about people that had different political.
I mean, but even just that, like, the government itself was against Fred Hampton. Like, the government itself was against Fred Hampton, not because Fred Hampton was going against the system or whatever, as far as the white people, like, infighting. He was fighting for his people. He was fighting for the liberation of his people. Nick Fuentes and them are fighting for power within the political party versus fighting for your humanity. Let me say that again. He's comparing somebody who was fighting for the humanity of his people versus somebody who's fighting for power within a political party. These two things are not the same at all. So I'm confused. So let's let Fred continue to talk.
He had. His speeches sound somewhat like those of Hitler. And we know why he wants to see Fred Hampton put in jail. Why do I have a lot of arrests? Because of harassment. Why is that harassment? Because the people that harass me have set up a problem that made me disagree with them violently, and they set up this problem in order to.
PhD up in the building. What's going on? I got to get some straightening tonight. This brother actually said, PhD. This brother actually said Nick Fuentes was the white Fred Hampton. I was driving when I came across that video. I about flipped my lid, but let's let Fred keep talking. Thank you for being in the building, my sister.
Exploit me and other people like me. And why they want to get rid of me? Because I'm saying something that might wake up some other exploited people and some other oppressed people. And if all these people ever get together,
I know what he's saying.
These pigs that are exploiting us, we'll be able to run them into the lake. That's why they want to get rid of us. And it's just, it's sort of like a primary thing with me. I'm the first move that they'll make. I'm a part of the organization. It will be the first organization they'll move on because I happen to be a part of the organization, the Black Panther Party. That is the only organization, in fact, that has came out and stood up loud and clear and said that we don't care what anybody says, whether they have guns or not, and badges, the 18 uniforms. If whenever they step outside the bounds of legality into the bounds of illegality, then we'll blow their brains out if they're bothering the people. And what makes them mad about that? They're constantly bothering the people. Anybody that's out there for the protection of the people happens to be in direct conflict with them.
Yep.
What makes them mad about it? What makes them mad about it is that they had black people and white poor people and red poor people and Puerto Rican poor people and Latin American Puerto Rican people of poor people of all descent. They had them caught up in movements based on racism when the Black Panther Party stood up and said that we don't care what anybody says.
And see, I think that's one of the things that Arami may be confusing with Fred Hampton, because he was talking about fighting for poor people as well as not just his people, but poor people, but initially and primarily his people, right? But is that what Nick Fuentes is actually doing? Does Nick Fuentes have like tangible evidence to show that he's fighting for the people? Like I'm in Tallahassee, Florida, so the people on Houghton Street, who in the projects on Houghton Street, who don't have much, like the people who are always looked over, are those the people that Nick Fuentes is supposed to be fighting for, or is he fighting for his other Groyper friends, right? Because Fred Hampton was fighting for the vulnerable. Fred Hampton was fighting for the downtrodden. Fred Hampton was fighting for people who were dehumanized, for people who were stepped on all the time. That's who Fred Hampton was fighting for. He wasn't just fighting for some frat boys who mad at other frat boys. It's a difference.
We don't think you fight fire with fire fists. We think you fight fire with water fists. We're going to fight racism, not with racism, but we're going to fight with solidarity. We said we're not going to fight capitalism with black capitalism, but we're going to fight it with socialism. We stood up and said we're not going to fight reactionary pigs and reactionary state's attorneys like this and reactionary state's attorneys like Hanrahan with any other reactions on our part. We're going to fight their reactions with all of those people to get together and have an international proletarian revolution. Right on. Right on. And that's saying all power to the people. Right on. That's saying that no matter what color you are, there's only two classes. And that's saying there's a class over here and there's a class over there. And the reason that this class over here has never did anything to get this class off its back, because this is lower, this is upper. This is the oppressed, this is the oppressor. This is the exploited, this is the exploiter. And these people in this class have divided themselves. They say, I'm black and I hate white people. I'm white and I hate black people. I'm Latin American and I hate hillbillies. I'm hillbilly and I hate Indians. So we fight amongst each other. And you heard the testimony of pigs here, and you got pigs of all colors, you know that. You got pigs that are white, you got pigs that are black, you even got pigs that are black and white. Propagating the same type of madness that this buffoon Henry had would be propagating if he were here himself. And why? Because they want to keep you to believing that I'm your enemy, and that everybody else that's black and that wears a lot of hair on his head and hair on his face, they want to keep you thinking that he's your enemy. Why? Because if ever you would disregard him and overlook him just for a minute and throw away that question of racism and start into dealing with a little logic, then there would be no one else you could attack other than Henry Hand, other than Davey, and other than Tricky Dicky Nixon. If you make the right decision, then the oppressed people of the world get complete satisfaction. I know you return the verdict of not guilty.
So you hearing Fred Hampton's words. What has Nick Fuentes said? Nah, yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. You know, I'm for us, being for us, because we have enough historical information now to see that if we don't take care of us, we'll never get anywhere. And trying to help everybody else really don't help us, because everybody else don't give a damn about us, and mass other groups don't help us. No, I'm with you. I'm for the us's and the we's. You know what I'm saying? The us's and the we's first. But this is Fred Hampton's message. And so I'm like, what has Nick Fuentes said that was even close to that will be beneficial to the people? Like, because we're talking about social revolution that Fred Hampton is talking about, social revolution for humanity versus political revolution for power. Because, you know, there is hinging on like and dislike. I don't like this, I like this. I don't like this, I like this within the political party versus, hey man, you all are suppressing my rights and my humanity. So this is an interview with Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes, and at this point in the interview, it's this point in the interview is titled, "What Does Nick Fuentes Actually Believe?" So we can hear Nick Fuentes himself, because I wanted to hear from him himself. Tell us what he believes and see if his ideologies are anything close to what Fred Hampton's were. So let me share my screen. Please hit that like button. Please hit that like button. When you hit that like button, you help this algorithm, you help the algorithm, you help the video go out further, you help more of our people get this information. Because the thing is, we have to make sure that we are pushing back against misinformation. Because once again, the brother, no shade to the brother around me, but he is a professor. And though he has views I agree with and has views I disagree with, I don't want our young people having a misconception of Fred Hampton. I don't want our young people looking at Fred Hampton and looking at Nick Fuentes synonymous. Just because they saw a YouTube video and may not have all the information that they need on either party. And I want to make sure our young people understand that our heroes are not in the same lane as some racists, right? Some young white racists who vying for power within their party. So let's let Nick Fuentes tell us what he believes. Please hit that like button, please.
You're one of those people. One of the reasons I wanted to meet you is you're one of those people who is defined by clips.
Yes.
And I'm one of those people also.
Yes.
Right? So I get it. So I'm going to just shut up and you tell me what you actually believe.
Yeah. Well, and listen, I mean, and I appreciate you saying that, because that's just the reality of the media environment we're in. So I don't expect you to know all my views, but I mean, as far as the Jews are concerned, I think that,
right,
like I said, you cannot actually divorce Israel and the neocons and all of those things that you talk about from.
No, I mean, and disrespectful to me, yes, very disrespectful, and to try to intellectualize it as well. So yeah.
Jewishness, ethnicity, religion, identity. And let me give you like a perfect example. So you say on your show that we need to treat Israel like any other country. And I sort of understand that in principle, because Israel is another foreign country.
Yeah.
But Israel...
Driving without car insurance is illegal. But if you do this, you're not actually breaking the law. So I found this website, and
is unlike every other country in the sense that because the Jewish people are in a diaspora all over the world, there are significant numbers of Jews in Europe, but also in the United States. And because of their unique heritage and story, which is that they're a stateless people, they're unassimilable, they resist assimilation for thousands of years. And I think that's a good thing. And now they have this territory in Israel. There's a deep religious affection for the state. It's bound up in their identity, the story of the Exodus from Egypt, the promise of the land, all these things. So let's say in the United States, for example, somebody like a Sheldon Adelson, he's not Israeli. Is he an ideological neocon? Does he believe in the promise of democratic globalism? I don't think necessarily. His heart is in Israel. And it's because he is a proud Jewish person. And I guess what I'm saying is that if you are a Jewish person in America, you're sort of, and again, it's not because they're born, but it's sort of a rational self-interest politically to say, I am a minority. I'm a religious ethnic minority. This is not really my home. My ancestral home is in Israel. There's like a natural affinity that Jews have for Israel. And I would say on top of that, for the international Jewish community. They're extremely organized. And many of them are critical of Israel or Israel's current government or the project of Israel. But I guess what they have in common, unlike, let's say, like Singapore, for example, is that they have this international community across borders, extremely organized, that is putting the interests of themselves before the interests of their home country. And there's no other country that has a similar arrangement like that. No other country has a strong identity like that, this religious blood and soil conviction, this history of being in the diaspora, stateless, wandering, persecuted, and in particular, the historic animosity between the Jewish people and the Europeans. They hate the Romans because the Romans destroyed the temple. That's why Eric Weinstein goes to the Arch of Titus and gives it the finger and takes a picture.
But what any of that got to do with us? Like I hear what he's saying, but I'm still not hearing, for one, what that got to do with us, and two, how his conviction of that would be beneficial to us, and why we could trust him. Because early in the video, the brother said we don't get to pick our allies. The hell we don't. We're not that damn desperate. We're not that damn desperate for you to put us in a situation like, well, hey, we just have to work with Nick Fuentes with the Justin Bieber haircut just because. He is insane. Gwendolyn, he is insane. No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. No. Don't be so emotional. Don't be so emotional in your hate against AIPAC and the Democrats and all these people that you just, well, I know these people over here don't care for us, and I know these people don't have our best interests, but we're gonna rock with them anyway because we tired of these people over here who don't have our best interests, even though these people over here have never had a history of having our best interests. We're not doing that. No.
Sure. We don't think like that as Americans and white people. We don't think about the Roman Empire in 2,000 years ago. They do. And so I guess that's really, and I don't think that's me saying the Jews. I don't think that's me being hateful. I don't think that's me being collectivist. I think that's understanding that identity politics, whether you love it or hate it, whatever you feel about it, it's a reality that we live in a world of Jews and Christians, of whites and blacks. These identities mean something to us and they mean things to each other, and we can't sort of wish them away. And it feels like white people and Christians are the only ones that do that.
There's no question about that, your last point, for sure. One of the reasons they do that is because they've been taught to hate themselves, of course, since the Second World War. Another reason is, however, the reality of a multi-ethnic country requires you to sort of set aside community or group interests in favor of corporate interests, universal interests, national interests. And you have to do that or else it doesn't work. And so, I agree those attitudes. I mean, certainly in other parts of the world, people think this way, but you can't have that here. And so it's just important to remind everybody that, things may be generally true, but like, again, they're not always true. And there are people who just strongly disagree. And by the way, in the specific case of Israel, there are a ton of Orthodox who I know who are opposed to the state of Israel. They're more Jewish than Dave Rubin, a lot more. And yet they oppose it. Jeff Sachs is like the most a wonderful man, who's Jewish, the most articulate kind of critic of the state of Israel that I'm aware of. So like, I don't know, that's just meaningful. You can't, if everything is inherited, then there's no hope for the continuation of America. Mm-hmm. Do you see that?
Yeah, I don't think it's genetically inherited. And what you're saying about putting aside the tribal interest for the corporate interest,
yes,
that's absolutely the case. And that's the only way the country's going to stay together.
Exactly.
And
that's my concern.
Right.
And
Right. How do we fit in that? How do we fit in that? That's completely different from what Fred Hampton was talking about. Corporate interest does not benefit Black America. Look at your cities. Look at all the gentrification and everything built in your cities. And then look at what's happening in the Black communities and seeing what's not happening. Corporate interest. And we're going to partner with that. We're going to let that lead us. This unproven person, let him lead us? No, brother.
Totally agree with you. I would say, though, that the main challenge to that, a big challenge to that, is organized Jewry in America. I don't think Bill Ackman is capable of that. I don't think Sheldon Adelson is capable of that. I don't think Yoram Hazony is capable of that, for that matter. And many other, on the right and the left. And I see Jewishness as the common denominator. And you're right. It's not all Jewish people feel the same way. No one would say that, but that does seem to be the common denominator. And I just feel like it needs to be called out explicitly. And I like what you said. If the other day, if you're serving in another country's military or have dual citizenship, you really can't be a part of this project.
Well, that's an easy one. But I am much more comfortable as a Christian and an American keeping it on that level because, it's easy to just set universal rules that apply to everyone, not just the Jews or the Christians or the anybody, just like Americans can only serve in the U.S. military or they lose their passport. I mean, I don't know. That's not hard. And I don't know. Why not just say that?
Say what?
That. Why not make every statement about how Americans ought to behave applicable to all Americans? Like it's the defense of universal values that will hold the country together and the emphasis on parochial group values that will break it apart inevitably.
Because this is a particular issue and it's acute. Like I said, I think they are unique in that way. I think that's a unique issue, especially in the Republican Party, especially in the conservative scene. So
how would you like this all to be resolved?
What I would like is for the U.S. government to not be influenced by these kinds of foreign allegiances, not with money that comes from, American citizens like Sheldon Adelson, not from foreign lobbyists. So, I mean, in terms of tangible things, I don't think we disagree on any of it, like registering AIPAC and FARA, banning dual citizenship. Like, I'm basically in agreement.
I think 80% of the public agrees with those things.
So
that's kind of what gets me a little bit annoyed. It's like, these are, like America First, the concept, it's the most popular, self-evidently true idea that you could have. Like, don't let foreign powers, especially tiny ones far away, control your country. Like, of course not. Everyone agrees with that on both sides.
Yeah.
So the trick is not to let that idea get subverted. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think we agree on that.
But it's subverted when they're like, that's hate. No, that's hate. It's not hate.
Yeah. Well, and, here's what I will say. I think that there is increasingly a contingent, because what you're talking about exists. When you say that there are people that legitimately detract from this with there is legitimate racial hatred out there,
Big time.
and it's growing. And
I know.
people on our side are afraid to talk about it because they know, like you.
He's a part of it. He's a part of the racial hatred that be growing. If you go look at his channel, he be on there wilding. He's a part of the racial hatred that's growing. Don't just throw that out there and try to act like you ain't a part of it. Come on, man.
You said they're going to get called a cuck or a squish or whatever. And I agree with you. The people that are detracting from that need to be called out. And I think there should be no harbor for cruelty, hatred, prejudice, those kinds of things.
And some of them, I'm sorry to be a conspiracy nut. I really try not to be a conspiracy because it's embarrassing, you know. But after January 6th and just finding out the number of FBI personnel in the crowd, it's like, and I've just seen this. David Duke is a great example. Some of these are the Charlottesville rally.
Yeah.
Had a bunch of feds there being like, we're white supremacists. We hate the blacks, you know, using the N-word, whatever. You know, it's like, that's not real. Like there is some of that going on. Don't you think?
I think that there's a lot of sincere people.
Well, for sure. Oh, I completely agree.
You know, and they're just numbskulls, and some of them are legitimately, they see the opening that there's legitimate critique of this, and they see an opening to air out their grievances. They get a license to, they think it's okay now. And I do think it's important to differentiate and say that fundamentally, I guess the word that I would use, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, is reassurance, because I think there's a legitimate,
I agree, Sam, especially after I learned a little more about Arami. I do agree. He's picking a radical option. But is it constructive? Is it logical? Is it practical? Is it going to be something that is really going to be beneficial for Black people? That's my question for it, though. And is that radical option based off of emotions, or is it well thought out? And why Nick Fuentes with no real experience and being able to carry out what Arami is proposing? So gonna let Nick Fuentes play a little bit more. Then we're gonna go back in time 4 years ago where Arami is doing a tribute to Fred Hampton and see what his overall thoughts on Fred Hampton are.
There is legitimate need to reassure people. And this is kind of what I've been doing on these podcasts, that we don't want to harm anybody. We don't want to kill anybody. We don't want to harm anybody. Right. We just want to put America first. And I guess, you know, to the extent that I've been taken out of context over the years or things like that, I'm trying to set the record straight and say, you know, and I appreciate you've given me this opportunity. These are my real views. I'm not one of those haters, let's say.
Yeah. Well, I think people should be allowed to describe what they think. I mean, that's like a basic human autonomy question.
Yeah.
Like if I want to know what you think, I should just ask you and let you talk. Right?
Yeah.
So who's going to be president? Who should be president next?
Who should be president? Well, yay, of course. Kanye.
You had dinner with Trump.
I did.
And Kanye.
Yes.
What did you think of that?
It was surreal. Because those are my two.
Okay, so that's the end of that part where Nick Fuentes is giving his thoughts. You saying his what's taken out of context? I can make sure I'm knowing exactly what you're saying. So I'm going to go to a video of Arami 4 years ago, and it's a tribute to Fred Hampton. So I'm going to check that out so we can get a little more of his thoughts on Fred Hampton, so we can understand Arami better and his ideas better. So Oh, Nick Fuentes. Oh yeah, Nick. Yeah, he lying. Yeah, he lying. He lying. Look at his haircut. Somebody with a haircut like that, you know he gonna be lying. You know that. Says this fool said some absolute absurd BS about our station here in this land. Yeah. So I'm with y'all. So this is Around Me 4 years ago. Once again, a tribute to Fred Hampton.
America, my name is irvineP Frimpong, and I'm coming to you live every Friday, as I do, because, and this is a very important show, I want to try to kind of give a quality of Black history that you might not have heard in your K through 12 education. And today's show is going to be about one Fred Hampton. Fred Hampton was a young man who was assassinated in the late 60s in Chicago as the chairman of the Black Panther Party, or the deputy chairman of the Black Panther Party. And he was a fascinating mind and a wonderful organizer. And I'm going to play a few clips from a documentary called The Murder of Fred Hampton and talk about what Fred Hampton means for us, right? And why we need to study Fred Hampton and why Fred Hampton deserves to be up there as just kind of a mind and an aspiration and an kind of a figure that we all should look up to. So I'll just, so that's going to be the show. Let me kick the opening and then we'll get right to it.
Let me just go right to it.
So we're back. Fred Hampton, deputy chairman of the Black Panther Party, was assassinated by the FBI, your government, and assassinated, December 4th. So, 51, 68. So 51 years ago.
Toby up in the building. What's going on?
Last week. And
welcome, my brother.
In Chicago, there's a movie coming out about this. I'm sure it'll be fine. It'll go over the glorification of assassination. There's also a fantastic documentary that I pulled these clips from called The Murder of Fred Hampton. So if you like anything I'm saying, go ahead and just find a way to get that documentary. And it goes through a few of his archived speeches and a little bit of the assassination. Turns out that, they got one of his friends to roll on him and drug him, and then the FBI kicked open the door and shot him up. And that is the assassination of Fred Hampton. But more important than his death, I think, at least for me, is the quality of insight that he actually delivered in his life, and one thing that might have made him so dangerous. So we're going to go over that quality of insight. And
real quick, PhD, I just want to give you a shout out. Shout out to the Voices of Venus as well for becoming a subscriber. The comment specifically, and I'm saying the word wrong on purpose. The comment specifically says PhD was sent me. She gave 3 hearts, new sub here. So thank you, the Voice of Venus. Shout out to you, the PhD, for coming through here and dropping them gems.
First, I want to do. I'm going to start with one clip that is from the documentary, and it takes place when they think there's going to be a raid on the Black Panther headquarters in Chicago. So they think there's going to be a raid on the Black Panther headquarters in Chicago, and Fred's just kind of talking about how he got involved.
And I'm moving forward because I want to hear more so his thoughts rather than the documentaries, because we've gone over Fred's ideology. So I want to hear more so what Around Me is talking about, his thoughts on Fred Hampton. So we're moving forward, just letting you know.
People to be free. And I wanted it to be the case that this would happen without violence. I wanted it to be the case where, I could just make good arguments and say like, all right, so you guys have a lot, we have a little, and you guys have a lot because we have a little. And I'm gonna need, what are we going to do to make this situation whole? Like he wanted to be, he wanted to believe that was true. But first of all, he understood that just because he wanted it to believe that was true doesn't mean that it's true. And this is
so, and that's an interesting point what he just said, because he's talking about how Fred Hampton had a change in ideology or a maturation in ideology, going from, hey, America should be this, excuse me, America should be this, to, hey, we have to make our change, right? But also, in the midst of making our change, we have to make sure that who we are making a change with will not come back to bite us. But let's let him keep talk a little more.
A hard thing to get. A lot of, honestly, a lot of white people are kind of addicted to the notion that the way they want the world to be, right? Because and I remember what I was trying to say. So
going back to having a change in ideology, because he's believing, because he's talking about a maturation of ideology. So I'm proposing that he may need to have a maturation of ideology as far as partnering with the gropers, or looking at Nick Fuentes as somebody who can be a viable option to help us, like to say, be able to take out the APEC and take out the left and take out the misandrous and all the people there, right? So he may need to have a maturation in ideology. This may be what you want, but when your understanding grows, is this good for us? Does it make sense? Come on.
Is the way it is, and that's just not the case, right? So
I thought about that too,
the
William.
logical form of the world does not give itself to your wishes. I want the donut to be healthy for me. It doesn't mean that it is healthy for me. All right, so this is gonna be a good show. So we're gonna get a little bit deeper, and we're gonna talk about subjectivity
I don't know
and
what he's
objectivity
talking
and how
about,
that kind of works out. So I understand myself in the world, and the way I understand the world actually reflects how I understand myself.
Right.
All right. So if let's talk about donuts. If I want, the donut is delicious, I eat the donut because it is delicious. And then I come to learn that the donut also, in addition to be delicious, causes me to get diabetes and a gut. Right? So the donut doesn't stop being.
And just letting you know, he's gonna be a little long-winded, but he's basically talking about a maturation of thought, being able to, as you grow, see the world the way it truly is, and then that changes how you approach the world and the way you go about freeing yourself, especially if you are an oppressed people.
Delicious, but the donut starts having a more complicated logical form than merely its deliciousness. And not only does the donut start attain a more complicated logical form, I understand myself as not being what I thought I was. I thought I was the person who could just eat anything, and it was justified for me to eat because it was delicious. But now I have to be thoughtful about what I eat. And it being delicious isn't, it's like the fact of it being delicious, the certainty I have of it's delicious isn't necessarily the truth of the donut. So the donut in truth is like more than just delicious, right? And I am in truth, not just because I feel good, I am in truth actually vulnerable in ways that I, might not feel. I might have a cancer diagnosis that I don't know about, right? So I feel good, but in truth, I'm not, because I'm actually more complicated than my feeling.
Right, but so in that, you would be asking us to align with the right in that state, in that unmatured state. You're literally asking us in their unmatured state to align with people who have a history of being our enemies. So forget the maturation of thought that we should get to, because we need to have a maturation of thought before we even decide what we want to do as a people. And you're talking about aligning with others. We can't even agree on simple stuff as Black people. Man, that's not happening. And it's just egregious to compare Nick Fuentes to Fred Hampton. The work that Fred Hampton has done, it overshadows Nick Fuentes so much it's not even fair. Nick Fuentes couldn't even be half the man Fred Hampton was in his dreams. Nick Fuentes couldn't stand for what Fred Hampton stood for in his dreams, in his father's dreams. At such a young age, what Fred Hampton stood for and what he was able to do would not be disrespected by being compared to some loudmouth, radical racist who sounds good but has no history of doing anything tangible for any group of people, let alone us. And we're supposed to hitch our wagon to that because you feel like we have no other choice. Forget that. You sound weak, my brother. I'd rather us take our chances doing what we got to do rather than put ourselves in a vulnerable position to be taken out.
I didn't know that, which is why you can't give like 2-year-olds and some wild animals like donuts. They'll eat themselves until they're either sick or dead. But people who actually have kind of like can be brought about by experience to understand that the world is more complicated than their senses, and the world is more complicated than even their wants, can actually understand themselves in a more objective way. Right? That's not always the truth. And when I explain this to students, I talk about former professional athletes. There are some former professional athletes who retire, but then eat like they were 23. They don't understand that they're not the same thing that they were in 23, that they are more complex and some ways a little bit slower than they were. So then they get fat real fast. Like within 2 years of retirement, they've ballooned up because they ate as if they were professional athletes. They didn't understand that they are more complex. They are not what they thought they were. They were holding on to an idea of themselves and are holding on to an idea of the world and holding on to an idea of the relationship between themselves and the world that was not true. And they could either grow up and adjust their diet,
right,
or they could hold on to this relationship with the world and then be like.
So remember, he's saying this 4 years ago. You can grow up and adjust your diet. Seems like that rhetoric is changing for him. Because if we're growing off what he's saying 4 years ago, growing up and adjusting our diets would mean to be able to put ourselves in a better position to defend ourselves against the system of white supremacy. But what does aligning with the system of white supremacy have to do with us putting ourselves in the best position to defend ourselves against the system of white supremacy? So I'm confused. I'm very confused with him, especially because if you go and look at his Twitter page, it's anti-white people this and anti-white people that, anti-Jews this and anti-Jews that. But you want us to align ourselves with these same people. He says, if you want, this is from his Twitter page, if you want racial justice, you're going to have to reconceive the white family. Crowd. How can you say that? Meanwhile, white moms acting out of entitlements of motherhood. Like he's talking like he understands the system of white supremacy. Many soft eugenicists are liberal feminists for a few reasons. And then this is him going at the left. And I don't have no gripes against going at the left, but let's not turn a blind eye to what the right is doing. Let's not be desperate.
I don't understand why I gained 70 pounds in the office. Like that is a lot of maturity, is being able to let go of bad ideas about the world. And that means let go of also inadequate ideas about yourself. Because not only are you addicted to the world being a certain way, you're addicted to yourself being a certain way. And
so if we letting go inadequate ideas about ourselves, we won't be like, man, we can't pick our allies. We just gotta align with who we can align with. Nah, that's inadequate ideas about yourself. You said that, my brother.
It's addicted to yourself interacting with the world in a certain way. And when that's not true, or when that's no longer adequate, or when that's no longer true, are you going to be mature enough to let it go? And like I said, when I talk to students, I have to talk about this in a lot of different ways. And one of the ways I talk about it is just like, look, I was at a party about 6-7 years ago, and there was a kid, a 5-year-old, little white kid. And he wouldn't let his, he held in his poop. He had to poop. He was old enough. He was like 6, right? So he held in his poop like this. He was just sitting there, and his parents were like, you really should go to the bathroom and let that go. But he was like, no, I don't want to. And then he'd have a little smile on his face, and he'd say, it's mine. And there's a way in which, if you don't have control over your life, these little bits of areas where you do have control, you're going to hold on to, as opposed to just let it go. And there's also a way in which the little kid was right. It was his, but the parents were right. He needs to let it go.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to be mature, you need to let go of the aspects of yourself that are underdeveloped.
You heard him. You heard it came out of his own mouth. As you mature, you need to let go of the aspects of yourselves that are underdeveloped
and inadequate. So a lot of what I talk about freedom a lot, both in my classes and on the show. And we have an underdeveloped and inadequate understanding of freedom.
I agree with that. Right.
You know, I consider myself an intellectual laxative.
Right.
You listen to me, and then that inadequate, underdeveloped notion of freedom and yourself, you just got to let it go. Or you could just be like the kid who holds on to it because it's his. Right? It's not the best part.
And so now we're arguing that you may have a underdeveloped understanding of freedom. So, you know. Yeah.
Part of you. Right? So the 35-year-old who the 50-year-old who dresses like he's 19, or the former NBA player who eats like a 20-year-old, like they're not letting go of this idea they have of themselves, which is in no way, and their relationship to the world, in which case food or clothes or whatever, that is no longer adequate. They're not letting go of that. And so Fred Hampton had to let go of his idea that justice was going to come from just simply like asking white people nicely. You got to let that go.
Right.
Or you can't be surprised when it's fundamentally inadequate. And if you're not willing to let that go, you're not serious about justice.
Right.
You're not serious about justice. You're more serious about holding on to this idea about what the world is, what our situation is, and your relationship to our situation. So he's like, look, as I became more objective and I actually like paid attention to the way the world works, I had to understand that, you know, you can't talk people into like giving up the quality of power that white people they're pathologically addicted to.
So if you understand that, why the hell would you tell us to partner with that? People who are not willing to give up power, you tell us to partner with that? Because that's going to help us.
And we've structured society to give them the quality of entitlements that they don't want to give it up, right? So for us to be free, that means they're going to have to take a haircut, and they might not want to take a haircut. And, you know, they have guns, right? So
you're proving my point right there. You disproving your point.
So that was kind of what Fred was working with, and I think he did it pretty well. Just kind of working through kind of his thoughts about, like, as I grew up and I understood that there's going to be a limit to what nonviolence can do, I had to just kind of prepare myself for the fact of violence. And, you know, Gandhi said this pretty well, I think. Like, you have to understand, Gandhi said that the government will use your fear of jail in order to scare you, to control you. So you have to let that go. You have to understand that going to jail is like a soldier going to battle. It's not something you go out and do and because you want to do it and you like it. You just understand that it's part of the duty. And when the battle comes to you, you don't run away from it. Right. And that's what Fred Hampton, like, and the Black Panthers were like with violence. They didn't want to do it. They wanted just like their community to be whole. Mm-hmm. And Fred understood that he's not free until all of his people are free. Right. You can't be free alone. Like,
so is that Nick Fuentes' ideologies? You can't be free until all the people are free, all your people are free. But if that's Nick Fuentes' ideologies, we're not his people. But Fred Hampton was fighting for the disadvantaged. It's a big difference between the two. It's a big difference between the two. Do not put them two in the same sentence. Do not put them two in the same sphere. Nick Fuentes wishes he could be a quarter of the man Fred Hampton was.
Like that, the illusion that you can be free alone is something I'll pierce. And I have pierced before, but no, you can't be free and be alone. Hold on. Well, I'll get this to you. So that was the first lesson. Now I'm going to give you a clip of Fred Hampton.
We're going to fast forward. That is.
When he was called in as a consultant. There was another little black group that was trying to community organize.
Do a lot of talking to do.
I want you all to listen to what this is going to be the last little bit that we play this, then we're going to jump back to the other video of him trying to justify Nick Fuentes. But once again, we want to get a better understanding of his understanding of Fred Hampton. And so I thought what Fred Hampton was saying, what he was saying about Fred Hampton after this clip was significant. So
there's no foregone conclusion with me.
So that was Fred Hampton giving his advice. And you have to understand that even if you have the right opinion, if you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, you're easily going to be talked out. Honestly, since I kind of study this, you're going to be flattered out of your opinion. You're going to end up.
If you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, you're going to be flattered out of your opinion. That's what he's saying.
Selling out your friends just because someone flatters you. I remember
he just said you're selling out your friends because someone flattered you. So basically, with the understanding, Nick Fuentes flattered you, and now here we are. Your own words. You were flattered by Nick Fuentes' rhetoric, not by his actual actions, and now you are here selling out your friends. Your own words.
I spent about 6 months in Indonesia, and what anytime the palm oil company wanted to take over a little village, it would fly out the chiefs of that little village to Jakarta, the main city, and then like ply them full of drinks and nice dinners and tell them how awesome they were and what a good deal that they were negotiating. And then they would fly them back to their little village, and the village elders would then talk the rest of the village into going into it. And then 5 years later, like the palm oil company or whatever company would own the whole village, right? So you can flatter people who don't know what they're doing into just about anything because they don't have any core. They don't know why they're doing what they're doing. And if you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, you could easily be talked into doing something else. Or you'll go through your own unregulated desires and end up being like, Papa Doc, right? So, if you don't know what you're doing and if you can't like reason through it, then it's going to look a whole, like there's not going to be any hole, right? There's not going to be any limit to what you think you ought to do. There's not going to be any justice to your administration, right? And you'll be easily swayed by either immediate desires or someone else's flattery or someone else's opinion because there is no intellectual core. No stability. You're very unstable. And you're also an unstable ally because you don't actually know why you're doing what you're doing.
You just said it right there. We would be an unstable ally because we don't know why we're doing what we're doing. We're just following somebody who was able to dazzle us. You were dazzled by Nick Fuentes. And now you are the blind being led by the blind. We ain't following you. We ain't going with you. I can tell you that right there. Us over here, we ain't going with you.
Very just unstable person. Fred Hampton, no one was going to spin him. You could trust Fred Hampton in a room even when you're not in the room.
But we can't trust you.
Because he wasn't going to get spun. He knew who he was. So I'm trying to like with this YouTube show, I'm trying to give you the quality of knowledge so that you're not easily spun, so that you're more reliable in all of your relationships and that you kind of understand what the struggle looks like.
You heard him out of his own mouth. So once again, this was a video from Arami Osei Frimpong from 4 years ago. This was his tribute to Fred Hampton video. And I realized I didn't put the links to these in the description. So I'm gonna go back and make sure I put the link to those in the description. So now we're going to get back to the video of him saying that Nick Fuentes is the white Fred Hampton. So once again, we got a better understanding of Fred Hampton's ideologies. We got a better understanding of Nick Fuentes' ideologies. And we got a better understanding of Irami's understanding of Fred Hampton. And now we're getting back to him explaining why we should rock with Nick Fuentes. Disrespectful. Please hit that like button, y'all. Please hit that like button. Let's go ahead and make sure we can help this video get out. Make sure more our people can understand the truth and be able to truly grow, because we ain't lying to nobody over here. So let's do that.
Have to deal with them, right? And so when you want to say, well, what are his qualifications? What are his chops? All right, so Christian Zionism is a pretty big problem in the United States. It's not just the Jewish Zionists, it's the Christian Zionists also, who are paid by, a lot of them who are paid by the Jewish Zionists, directly and indirectly. So or just like dumb enough to just get spun by those junkets over to Israel and get moved by this. So we have a Christian Zionist problem, and one of the whole idea that Jewish Zionists pay Christian Zionists to be Christian Zionists, that is taken out pretty well by, I think, Nick Fuentes talking about Matt Walsh. Now, Matt Walsh is this huge racist on the right. He runs a show. He talks poorly about every racial group except white people and Jews. And this is what, and he won't talk about Israel, but he'll talk about everybody else. And this is what Fuentes had to say about Matt Walsh.
Get back to work, Matt Walsh. Get back to work. Do not criticize Israel. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Ben Shapiro. Get back to work, Matt Walsh. Get back to work. Do not criticize Israel. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Ben Shapiro. Get back to work, Matt Walsh. Get back to work. Do not criticize Israel. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Ben Shapiro. Get back to work, Matt Walsh.
Matt
Get back
Walsh,
to
you're
work.
such a good little Shabbos goy.
No, I'm a man. I have a beard and I wear a flannel shirt. I'm a man.
But when the Jews crack the whip,
Get back to work, Matt Walsh. Get back to work. Do not criticize Israel. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Ben Shapiro.
literally, and Michael Knowles, little fairy. Oh, I'm such a cool little metrosexual. I'm Michael Knowles. I'm dancing on the table like a little fairy. And he bends the knee for Israel.
Kush, the Groypers are it's a little sect of white supremacists on the right. So it says, well, according to politicalresearch.org, it says the Groypers are a particularly noxious subset of the alt-right that gained media notoriety in the wake of Trump's 2016 win. The Groypers arrived on the scene in 2019, just before Trump's re-election loss, as the new right emerged from Goldwater's 1964 defeat. Groypers represent the extreme right of U.S. politics, the bleeding edge between fascist outsiders and the Christian nationalist faction attempting to ride Trump's campaign to the heart of the GOP. They are overtly anti-Semitic, spreading threats against Jewish people and openly what did they say? I don't know. Empathizing with Hitler. I'm tripping. I can't read. Empathizing with Hitler. They are Christian and white nationalists using imagery and language associated with the Crusades to describe their angry post and their violence. So that's who the group was supposed to be, some extreme right group within the right group. So yeah. I don't, you can't. You can't. You can't at all. You can't at all. But those who are taking him serious, their intelligence is in question, though. Black people don't need any more outsiders to be our allies. We've tried that already and isn't working. Dorian, I don't think the brother's a professor, so I would assume he has the ability to do his research. So I don't know. Yeah, we don't need them at all. At all. At all.
Candace Owens, meanwhile, is a boss bitch. She don't take no shit from nobody. What you mean? What you mean I ain't on Daily Wire? What you mean I can't do my show, bitch? That's Candace Owens. I am rushing to Candace.
So we don't have that kind of energy on the left. We don't have that kind of energy in black spaces. There is no dirtbag left. There is no dirtbag left who's going to do that. We don't have the money because the dirtbag left needs to be independently funded. We don't have the numbers to get the money. And we might not even have the talent yet, or all that talent gets kind of constrained. We do have the talent, actually. Black people are the funniest people in the United States. I'll die on that hill. I don't learn, and you don't really learn that until you go to jail. But black people are the funniest people in the United States. Anybody who's been in any prison can tell you. So someone says we could if we wanted to. Destiny's pretty damn good. No, Destiny's a clown. Like I can't
the fact that this conversation is going to people in this chat, and they're literally going through a list of different racist white people that we should align ourselves with to help us get out of the system of white supremacy. So we're going to align ourselves with white supremacists to get out of the system of white supremacists. And not only, it's not like we're going to align ourselves with capable people. We're aligning ourselves. He wants us to align ourselves with talking heads, internet talking heads, because Nick Fuentes is outspoken about things going on the right. That gives him the credibility to lead us. You crazy, my brother. That don't even make sense. Known as GM, that don't make sense.
I can't, like, that's not a problem. Like, Destiny is not. And people talk about, well, Hassan Piker can do. No, I can't listen to those guys. They're not smart enough. They haven't read enough books. They're illiterate. Well, Destiny might not be illiterate, but he's just not deep enough. He hasn't read good books. He's read a lot of like shallow ones. Like, so we need help. Yeah, I'm looking at the comments. Someone did actually promote Destiny as the left fighter. No. We need help, right? So let's game this out into 4 blocks, right? You have conservative, you have conservative Republicans. You have market liberal Democrats. You have the Groypers, the Nick Fuentes folks, and you have the left. The left is the pinky. Who can we take out? Sometimes it's possible for us to take out the conservative Republicans. Sometimes.
So, and then you hear what he's saying. He's basically like using some type of war strategy, like we're in any position to help somebody take out somebody else, and acting like they won't take us out in the midst of taking out others. That strategy, he's setting us up. He's setting us up to fall for the strategy that colonizers used in Africa. I've said it so many times. Colonizers would come in. You have one group pit against the other. You align yourself with one group, you help them take out the other group, then you take that group out. We would align ourselves with a group of people to help them take out other groups of people, even in our weakened state, like RBG's tech is saying, anything but a code and justice, anything but getting our stuff together. Because we need white folk to save us from white folk. I don't get it. I used to live in Chicago. The entire state of Illinois is very racist. Once you leave Chicago, it's literal Jim Crow. Yeah, probably. What's the prophecy? Gasoline prophet. What's the prophecy?
Sometimes I'll give you that. That's a reliable, fair fight. But we don't have. That's it. Like, that's the only person we can take out. Every time we try to take out the market liberal and Democrats, like, all Obama has to do is pick up a phone and they'll all, like, someone will give a wolf whistle or whatever. Because
it's not like we can't withdraw ourselves from the Democratic Party. It's not like we can just choose to do our own thing. Because we have to align ourselves with our enemy. And
they'll all come take out your favorite left candidate. Right? The only reason it didn't happen in New York was because they didn't realize too late that Mandami had the chops to do it. A year ago, the guy was a joke. It took the debate for it took the debate for Mamdani to have a chance, and the other electoral spaces aren't structured for that kind of debate, other than New York. So. Someone in the chat said blackout 300 who's wrong, but like, I'll try. Says Hassan and Destiny are the 2 biggest platform, meaning influence. They might have influence, they're not smart enough. Like,
what makes you think Fuentes is smart enough?
People will go in trying to be leftist, listen to those 3 on a panel, and come out Groypers. Like, we need someone deeper. We need someone deeper. I'd rather send Yvette Carnell up against Nick Fuentes then, but I don't think you guys will like the solution. But I'd send Yvette up against Nick Fuentes rather than any of the other people. So we need to be honest about the fact that we don't have a solution to AIPAC. AIPAC will buy all of your favorite HBCU stars. They'll just buy them. Just buy them and fly them out. And since we don't have money, they'll fly them out, flatter them. They'll come back like with a little yarmulke and the whole thing. So we do not have the money. We don't have the numbers. Sometimes you don't need money if you have like electoral numbers. We don't have those. Either black people or the left. We don't have the number. This is a center-right nation who thinks like Nick Fuentes. And then it's possible we don't have the talent. We don't have the talent. So
Fuentes,
we lack.
how is Fuentes talented enough to lead us? He hasn't given one concrete example as of yet, and we 17 minutes in. He hasn't given one concrete example of why Fuentes is smart or talented enough to do anything positive for us, outside of yelling at his enemies.
Money, numbers, and talent. We have the truth, but that's not enough. That's not enough. And so we need to hire fighters. You know, the first or the second book? It's the second book of Plato's Republic. It talks about like being a small unified state. And if you're a small unified state, you need to play other states against each other in order to sustain what you are. We need to play the Groypers against the market liberal.
But can we become a small unified state before you try to throw us into white people's fight? Can we become unified first before you try to throw us and hitching us to one side against the other, and the white people, as white people fight against white people, stuff that ain't got nothing to do with us? Because we should spend our time getting our stuff together instead of trying to get involved in white people fighting white people. I'm just saying that would be more constructive. That would be more productive than saying, hey, all right, well, I see these white people over here with the white people fights. Maybe we need to go get a part of this, even though we can't even protect ourselves. We can't help ourselves, but we're going to go join their fight for what? We need to get our stuff together first. We need to be concentrating on us. We're too vulnerable. You don't go join a group of people who have a history of taking your people out in a vulnerable state with the hopes that they will somehow just help us, be an asset to us, somehow elevate us, somehow see us as a true ally and not turn their back on us and not withdraw their promises from us like they always do. History tells us that this is a horrible move.
We need, like Ben Shapiro said, if you can't afford to move in your town, to live in your town, you need to go and buy a bus ticket and go someplace else. We can use that. We can use that.
How?
That market liberalism is not going to fly with the poor whites. They don't like it. And Fuentes went off on Ben Shapiro when Shapiro said that. Like, Shapiro says, if you can't afford to live in the place where you grew up, then that's a you problem. and Fuentes took him out because of that. And you know what? Fuentes was right. You do have a soft right to be able to, you know, raise your children in the place you grew up. And the nation has to mean something and respect you and respect your, like, your way of life so much that if it can't guarantee it, give you a soft guarantee that's going to try to keep you in the place.
Two rich white boys arguing about whether somebody should have the right to live where they grew up or not. Two rich white boys arguing about that. What do we fit into that argument between these two rich white boys? Yeah, Nick Fuentes is saying this, but what are the tangible results of anything that he said? Two rich white boys arguing about poor white people being able to live what they grew up at. Where do we fit into that, my brother? Just because Nick Fuentes is willing to go against the left, even go against his own party, doesn't mean he's qualified or even viable or even smart enough to fix our issues. What issues have he fixed for his own people? I'm so sick and tired of people who are not of our community, who haven't done a damn thing in their life, either nominating themselves or being nominated to come fix our issues. what's the history in fixing issues in your own community? That you're not qualified because somebody likes the way you talk. That don't make sense. So everything that he talked about 4 years ago in that Fred Hampton video about being vulnerable, about maturing and all these things, here he's throwing all of that out. He forgot he said that. He should have went back and watched that video before he made this one.
That you grew up, then like it's not much of a nation. And we need a nation. We need borders. So if we have to give up, so if we have to get strong on borders, get strong on borders. Like, look, I was born in Los Angeles. The name kind of fools people, but my first name, irvineP, that comes from Miriam. Just scrambled up. And then like they didn't like irvineP, so they just lopped off an M. This is a very black thing to do. And because my mom's from South Carolina, right? So
right.
We need to be honest about like we need borders. And if that's what the Groyper right wants as like their chit to get us like healthcare and jobs, then we'll give them borders in order for us to sustain healthcare and jobs.
Who is us?
But so at this point, so yeah, like, share the video, do all that. By the way, nobody else is going to tell you that. Nobody else is going to even put Nick Fuentes and Fred Hampton in the same sentence. But here I am. We tried the Rainbow Coalition from the left. Now we have to suck up we may have to suck up the Rainbow Coalition from the right, and that's because we don't have an answer. We don't want to have an answer.
Like as PhD was said earlier, we're not down with the Rainbow Coalition stuff. We must learn from our history. We already know that the Rainbow Coalition stuff don't work for us. We always end up on the bottom. We always end up getting the crumbs if we get anything from that. The multicultural stuff does not pan out for Black people in America. When are we going to learn that? Weak people are going to continue to get stepped on until they become strong.
Black people, 2053, you're supposed to be worth $0.
Nick Fuentes is not going to help.
You are going to be pawns to the liberal feminists even more than you are now.
But you want to make
you don't have the money
right.
to sustain yourself.
But we're
not on a trajectory
right now.
The trajectory is not looking good. And nobody,
I don't care what nobody say. Jumping from one party to the next is never the answer for Black people. When are we going to become codified, get our stuff together, and be able to make these parties beg for our vote and actually give us something tangible for our vote instead of jumping from party to party because we're not happy with what these white folk doing in their party when neither party does anything for us?
Yeah, nobody's gonna save us. We'll just be more and more destitute. So
nobody.
What I'm saying is
nobody.
We partner with the Groypers to take out the market liberals in our own party. Make the misandrists like sit down for a little bit, and then I think the Groypers are taking over the conservative party, the conservative Republicans too, and then it's just us against the Groypers, and that is actually a fair fight. If it's just us against,
what makes you think we last that long? What makes you think a vulnerable group of unorganized people can actually be a viable ally and even last that long to just be us and the Groypers left as other groups of white people take themselves out? And we're going to join in and help white people take other groups of white people out with the idea of, remember 4 years ago, he talked about your maturation of ideas, understanding that the world is not what you want it to be. The world is what it is. And history tells us that every time that Black people align ourselves with white supremacists, it's never a good outcome for us. There's never a favorable outcome for us. We never get what we thought we were going to get, and we're going to continue to do that. It don't make sense.
It's the Groypers, and we don't have to listen to the feminists, and we don't have to listen to the market liberals or the conservatives. And it's just us against Groypers. I think that's a fair fight. All right. So super chat, I'll read it because one, I like the comment, but also I'll read super chats now because we need money. why the left don't see the contradiction that open borders benefit the rich. Yeah, open borders just turn the U.S. into an empire, and this becomes the center of the empire. We're Rome. That is
At all.
That is what open borders do. What we want is strong states. We want everyone to have their state, and like then we can deal with them as state, as a state.
His argument the base of his argument is like very emotional because of his disdain with the left and his disdain with the APAC and all the things there. And I get it. We got this thing for them too, but I'm not going to be on some emotional level where I'm just let's seek out the best white supremacists and align ourselves with them, because that's what we need to do. Because if we don't get with them, there's no hope for us. Getting with them, there's no hope for us. He didn't learn nothing.
State. Now, Fuentes wants something a little bit different. He wants a different kind of empire. He wants us to run them as opposed to Israel running us, which it does. There's nothing we can say no to. There's nothing we can say no to that Israel asks. There's nothing. And you could say, that's just Trump. We get a Democrat. No, can you imagine Kamala Harris saying no to Netanyahu about anything? No, it's impossible. It defies possibility, right? So we need, unfortunately, this kind of Groyper Rainbow Coalition coming from the right in order to take out the market liberals and also the conservative business GOP, because he made his bones kicking right. He made his bones taking on the Charlie Kirks. He made his bones punching right.
So
I mean, he's a huge racist, and even his racism. There are varieties of racism, people. His racism isn't the hard, emotional racism. He actually thinks that's kind of.
Also, it's different levels of racism, and if it ain't like hard emotional racism, we should be fine with it, because there's levels to it. Gotcha.
The least interesting racism, he just thinks black people are incompetent, right? So he's like, well, you give them everything, they'll still end up at the bottom because they're stupid.
So why would we partner with that person if that's how he thinks about us? What would be advantageous for us to partner with the person who thinks that we're not smart enough to do anything and we're going to come out on the bottom anyway? How does he see us as an asset with that view of us? Are you listening to what you're saying, my brother? So you're saying that this dude is going to just put that worldview to the side and say, you know what? We can use these black folk, because in using these black folk, we're going to be okay. They're going to help us take it out, even though I don't think that they're smart. Come on, man. Come on. Man, I'm down with what Traore has going on over there, especially I'm down with black people taking their destiny into their own hands. Now, I do need to do some research, because I seen a video earlier today and somebody was suggesting that Traore was placed by the Russians. So I need to do some research to look into that. But from what I know about Traore, I'm down for what he's doing. I even did a video on him a couple months ago. Once again, I'm down for black people taking our destiny into our own hands and kicking out white supremacists and making sure we're doing what we're supposed to do. So that's how I feel for that. And thank you, Healthy Green Lifestyle, for the $5 super chat.
Look at all this money, homie. I got all this money, homie.
So appreciate you. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Let's get back into it.
That's most of America. That's what most of America thinks. We just need to accept that that's where we are as a nation in terms of the national psychology. But that's not the red hot, like, I hate him, I want to go out and do that. He wants to do that to, he wants to do that to the Jews. I don't, but he wants to, or at least the Zionists. He thinks it's actually organized Jewry, not necessarily Zionism. Slightly different in my mind, but not so different in his mind. And he's worried about them in a way that he's just not worried about black people, because for the most part, he thinks we're incompetent. We just got to suck that up because our problems are bigger. We got to get rid
No,
of
we
APAC.
don't.
We got to get rid of.
No, I'm so tired of people telling us that we got to accept the bare minimum. No, we don't. We don't have to work with him. We ain't got to work with him at all. At all. We don't have to suck none of that up. Why would we rock with somebody who think we're incompetent and unable to carry out the mission? What does that mean for us long term? How do we? So Nick Fuentes don't think we're competent. He thinks we're incompetent. So you're suggesting that we're partnering with the Groypers and help Groypers take out all the other factions of white supremacists, and then it's just us two, and then we can take on them. What makes you think we last that long if he feels that we're incompetent? Super gang in the building. What's going on, my brother? How you doing on this good Tuesday night? Appreciate you being here. Once again, Healthy Green Lifestyle. Thank you for the $5 super chat. But I don't get it with this brother. I don't get it with this brother.
Market liberalism. Okay. And honestly, the biggest people who should be worried about this is if my strategy is right, the people he's going to go after next, after the Zionists, he might go after the Asians. And I'm giving you a little bit of a window into the future because unlike the blacks,
so
he actually like the Asians are.
So he predicting the white supremacy to continue doing what white supremacy do, and they're just gonna favor us just because they're gonna feel sorry for us and just favor us. Come on, man.
Winning in a lot of ways, and the whites aren't gonna like that. And if he wants his white country with white people on top, he's gonna have to do something about that. So like that's something you have to work out. So if I were Asian or like. That's where my mind is. But they've been on the sidelines for too long. So they're going to have to take their lumps too. Casually voting Democrat and keeping their mouth shut and making money. But they're beating white people at everything. Like all the test scores, like everything. So, if I'd be more worried about a partnership with the Groypers if I were Asian and into like Asian American politics than I would be if I were black in black politics. But the problem is, if I'm in Asian American politics, I know my first problem is politicizing Asians. They just think they can come here and make money without like having a strong political voice and like actually like fighting for things. So, that's on them. That's on them. So you sat out long enough, and when the Groypers come for you, I'm kind of a fan of Asian, so like I will fight up for you, but like you need to start fighting for yourselves at that level. So, and someone says Nick's not ready.
And see, like like you said, Dorian, Traore basically sided with the enemy of the enemy. Arami is asking us to side with the enemy, to help the enemy with their infighting and take out other groups of their people. But he wants to side with our actual enemy. And that's why I'm confused. I can see the enemy of your enemy, but your actual enemy.
Racist? Yeah, he is. He just isn't the worst kind of racist. He is. I mean, he'll admit himself. He just thinks that like there are important intellectual differences that can be marked down
These
to
fights
race.
don't have nothing to do with us.
And one of the reasons why he's not intimidated by helping out black people is that he thinks ultimately the whites will win a fair fight 10 times out of 10. Right? So nobody, nowhere, irony. That is a lie. Get the quote or you're lying. Actually, like, I'm not gonna. It was a show like 3 days ago. He's the cold racist. He was making fun of the hot racist, the passionate racist, and like who like really like He's like, that's I think low IQ racism. Like he's the soft racism. Anyway,
I don't know what they game.
Right. So the problem is you're gonna have to. I'm looking at the comments now. You're gonna have to deal with a lot of nobody nowhere 21s in this coalition, but just be big,
right,
and let it go.
Right, Kobe.
So what I'm saying is we should think seriously about partnering with the Groypers and and understanding that a bigger Nick Fuentes might be better for America. Because as it stands, the trajectory is not good for us. We need to try something different. It's not the best. It's not the best trajectory, but it is one that's better than the trajectory that's right now, which is benign neglect. Black people in palliative care.
Right, but he still hasn't given. I haven't heard one reason why we should partner with them, other than that Nick Fuentes is willing to call out other groups of white supremacists. Okay. So how does that benefit us? Where has Nick Fuentes actually shown that he gives a damn about anything that's going on in the black community? Because that's my question. Let me make myself big screen. That's my question. Like, where has Nick Fuentes shown any of that? And why should we trust anything that they do? Trust them, period. Why shouldn't we trust history? That's my question for Irami. Like, why should we go with what you're saying? I get it. He's throwing out his ideas and things, but once again, he's a professor. On his YouTube channel, he has 29,000 subs. And he got some comments. You got some people agreeing with him in the comments and all those things there. But I know how a lot of young people are impressionable these days, and how a lot of young people are not necessarily taught how to do real research and things. And the internet has become the new research ground. People hear something and run with it. So I want our young people going out thinking that our best way to help ourselves as far as fighting white supremacy is to find the best group of white supremacists and hitch ourselves to them and help them fight other groups of white supremacists, with the hope that we last to the end to be able to possibly challenge them. Like, they will empower us so we could be able to challenge them. Like, they wouldn't use us as a tool and then discard us after they get through using us. What would stop them from doing that? What protective measures do we have in place to make sure that we don't get screwed over? Those are my questions. Why does it make sense outside of Nick Fuentes just being willing to go at other people who he have a different opinion on, or they have their infighting? Why does their infighting matter to us? Why do we care about their infighting? Why do we care to even help anybody on any side of anything that they're doing with their infighting? Why should we care? Why shouldn't we be spending our time getting our stuff together? Because you talked about how vulnerable we are, how discombobulated we are. And so we're going to enter into an allegiance with somebody in that state. Why would they take us serious? Why wouldn't they just wipe us out? That's just one less group you got to deal with right there. The black group is one less group you got to deal with. They already scattered all over the place. They already don't have their stuff together. And then they coming to us talking about they want to align themselves with us. Just take them out. That's one less group of people we got to deal with. Like Dr. John Henry Clark said, we have no friends. You want a friend? Damn it, look in the mirror. Why is that not an option? Why do we keep skipping over that? Why do we keep trying to go around doing for self, taking care of self, empowering ourselves? I'm not getting that. We want everybody else to save us. We're not willing to save ourselves. That's a defeatist attitude. You can't be around these parts with an attitude like that. Hey, let's partner with white supremacists because we don't have what it takes to fight white supremacy. Come on, man. Come on, man. Come on, man. But that's what we're dealing with. Look, I vehemently disagree with the brother. Even after going through this with you all, I'm even more confused than I was earlier today. I have no idea why this makes sense to this brother. If you all think this makes sense, please get in the comments and let me know why it makes sense to you. And maybe we can have some little more reason, and maybe you can help me or something. But I have no reason to understand. I have no understanding of why this makes sense. I have no reason to go along with that or even champion that. Because now I'm looking at him like, do you truly understand the system of white supremacy? Because you sound like you're working from a place of emotion and desperation. Are you saying this because of emotionalism and desperation? Right. Instead of getting there trying to help, we jumping in some business that ain't got nothing to do with us, trying to help somebody because we scared of the overall outcome of us being the vulnerable people. Well, how does aligning with the gropers help us not be vulnerable anymore? Oh, because we'll be a good tool for them to use against other white supremacists. I'm not signing up to be nobody's tool. I don't know about them, but I'm not signing up to be nobody's tool to help white folk fight other white folk. It don't make sense. It's not constructive. If we're going to be doing anything, it best to hell be constructive. Or we need to stop doing it. Got to grow up. At some point, we got to grow up. We got to be better. Remember, in this video from 4 years ago, and I will, as soon as I jump off the stream, I'm going to link the other videos in the description so you can go back and check those out. But 4 years ago, he talked about going against the system, about maturing in your thoughts, about being able to see the world the way it actually is versus what you want to see it as. Because in this video, he's talking about the world in the way he wants to see it versus what it actually is. Partnering with the gropers, in my opinion, is a horrible idea. We won't last. We won't last at all. So those are my thoughts, man. I know some people saw the thumbnail, some people saw the title of the video. Somebody who commented on the post, and it was like, because the question was, what does Nick Fuentes and Fred Hampton have in common? Somebody was like, not a damn thing. And I was like, heck yeah. But I know some people probably thought I was crazy with the thumbnail and everything. But it's like, we got to get some straightening though. And we need to make sure people understand that there's no comparison between the two. There's nothing similar of the two. And Nick Fuentes has nothing viable for us. Fred Hampton was a real man. Nick Fuentes is a little boy. Let's understand that. My stomach growling, man. I got to go get me some food. I enjoy having this conversation with you all. There you go, Kerwin. None. And we ain't living on our knees for nobody. No, we don't. History has showed us we have no friends. All other groups of people who claim to be our friends end up stabbing us in the back. So what we talk about? We're going to do it again. We're just going to be foolish enough to just do it again. Just sign up and do it again. Because we refuse to learn from history. If you want to follow Rami, you can. But I'm not. I am not. So with that being said, I'm going to begin my shutdown on this. Shout out to everybody who tuned in to this live tonight. Shout out to Healthy Green Lifestyle for the $5 super chat. And I do want to say this. I want to say two things too. If you are interested in being a moderator within the chat, if you're interested in being a moderator, please email me. Let me put my email in the chat right now. I need me some moderators because I be into the conversation sometimes. Some foolishness be going on, and I need somebody to help me control the comments and the conversation in the comments and stuff. So if you're interested in being a moderator for these lives, remember we go live on Tuesdays, go live on Saturdays, and I might go live a couple more times this week because it's Thanksgiving week. I ain't got too much to do. But if you want to be a moderator, please email me and we can go ahead and get that worked out. Now, I appreciate you for tuning in and hearing what I got to say, because I want to do my part in making sure that we get better, we be stronger, and we be greater people. So, my brother, I appreciate you. And with that being said, let me start my close out. So, Kobe, thank you. Sam, I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Hey, no apologies. As long as you being here is enough. No apologies. And whatever you missed, you go ahead and watch it on that replay. Be part of the replay gang. So I appreciate you as always, Kerwin. Thank you. RBG Tech, thank you for being here. Thank you for your comments. Dorian, thank you as always. Super gang in the building. Thank you, my brother. Thank you. Healthy Green Lifestyle once again. Healthy Green Lifestyle, $5 super chat. Thank you. I appreciate you. The real PH Diva, as always, my sister. I appreciate you. My man Kush, thank you for being here. Thank you as always for rocking with me. I lost my place where I'm at. Known as GM, thank you for being here. Gasoline Profit, thank you for being here. Dorian, if I didn't say it already, thank you for being here. Gwendolyn Scott, thank you for being here, my sister. LB, as always, thank you. I appreciate you. Sam, once again, thank you. That guy, McFly, thank you for being here. William Fortune, thank you. Who else was up in here? Kenyon Fleming, thank you for being here. Thank you for jumping in the chat. The Bush Woman, thank you for being here. Thank you for jumping in the chat. Baltimore, thank you. Thank you. VVS Goated, I appreciate you for being here. And let me say this. So the super chat. So the super chats are a way to support this channel. You can join this channel as a member, and you can hit the super chats. The super chats help get this information out further, but also are able to use that to grow this channel and to help educate the kids via my own The Shoulders of Giants Saturday Black History School that I do every second and fourth Saturday here in Tallahassee, Florida at Carter's Corner. So if you can, please, in the future live streams and everything, hit the super chats. The super chats help us grow, help us be able to do more, learn more, and give back more, especially directly to my community, directly to the children of my community. So thank you all. That's why the super chat is so important. That's why supporting channels like this is so important, because we boots on the ground, grassroots, doing things in our community for real. We don't just talk about it, we be about it. And that's what we inspire everybody else to do. Gijan, thank you. They're incels, let them, there you go. Leave them alone, mind our own business, and do what we got to do. Happy Tuesday to y'all. Have a great Tuesday night. You might see me on Thursday. You might see me live on Thursday. I will say that you might see me live on Thursday. You might see me live on Friday. Of course, you're going to see me live Saturday, and you might see me live Sunday. Hey, I ain't got nothing to do, too much to do but eat turkey this week. So I love you all. And I'll catch y'all maybe Thursday live. See y'all.